Hi, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Johnson back again with another Bible story and some more of Paul's letter. We're in that last section. We have this week and then next week's lesson, and then we won't need to do any more videos because we'll be doing the Sunday school on the computer at church. So you'll be able to see me on the computer, but not in a video lesson like this. So let's open up Paul's letter. Oh, and before I do, I should say that what he writes in today's part is probably for people who are a little older than you might be, people who are going to work or working and doing a job for someone, or people who are in charge of people who are doing work, like the boss or the foreman or someone like that. So most of you aren't at that point yet, but we should still learn these things so that as we get older and get to working for people or being in charge of other people, that we do it the way God wants us to. So let me open up our letter here. And here we go. If you are working for someone else, show respect and do your job the very best way that you can, just as if you are working for God. Don't just work well so that other people will think you're good. Do it because you love God and you really want to do your best for Him. Oh, boys and girls, I know if you were working for God, you would do your very best, and we should do that working for other people too. Now, if you are in charge of other people working for you, be sure to be kind and show respect to your workers. Don't get angry and yell at them or use mean, nasty words. Remember, they are just as special to God as you are. Oh, that's very important, boys and girls. Sometimes people who are in charge think that they are the most important people anywhere, and they just don't care how they treat their workers. So we need to remember, if we're ever in charge of somebody, we need to be kind and be respectful to them, because God loves them. We are no more special than they are. In God's eyes, we are all the same, people that He loves and chooses to be His children. Wow, how special. Let's go to our story pictures now, and let's hear a story about a young woman who listened to her leader, the person who was in charge of her, and she ended up doing something very brave that was very, very important. Come with me. Our story begins, boys and girls, sometime after King David had been king, a long time after King David, but before Jesus was born in Bethlehem. So it was somewhere in between that. And in this picture, you see a man in his purple robe with the gold collar and belt and the crown on his head. This is King Xerxes. King Xerxes does not have a queen, and he would like to have a queen. So he asks to have young women from where they're living brought to the palace and have them learn different things about being a queen. And then he will choose which one he likes, which one he thinks will make the best queen. The story that we're talking about today is about this young woman right here. Her name is Esther. She is a young Jewish woman. That means she has part of the Jewish religion. And she and her cousin Mordecai are going to be in this story quite a bit. Mordecai works in the palace. He is also Jewish. He works in the palace, and Esther is his cousin. When her mother and father died, Mordecai took care of her and brought her up, raised her just as if he were her dad, and took good care of her. She is now being chosen as one of the young women who will come in to see if the king would like her to be queen. So the ladies come in and they have beauty treatments and do a lot of different things learning about being a queen. And when the time comes, King Xerxes, right here, chooses Esther. He thinks that she will be the best queen. She is not only beautiful, but she has been very kind to people, and the other people in the palace have been very happy with her. So she is now queen, and King Xerxes is her husband. After this, Mordecai was sitting at the gate of the palace one day, and he happened to hear two of the men who also worked in the palace scheming and plotting. That means they were planning something. In this case, it was something very bad. They were planning a way to kill King Xerxes. Oh no, that would be terrible. Mordecai told Esther, and Esther told the king. And the king, when he found out, caught the two men and said, "Take them away. They must be punished. They have tried to kill the king." One of the other people who worked in the palace, his name is Haman. He was the most important of all of the noblemen there. Haman was a very proud man. He liked it when people would bow down to him. It made him feel very special, and he thought he was more important than the others. But Mordecai would not bow down to him. Here you can see Mordecai right there. Mordecai is standing. He is not bowing down. He does not think that Haman is more important than anyone else there. And this makes Haman very angry. Very angry. And he thinks, I have to get rid of Mordecai. Look at his angry face, boys and girls. He is not happy. So Haman goes to the king and he says, "O king, there are people in your country who do not obey your laws. They have their own ways of doing things. And we need to get rid of those people." And he keeps talking about how bad the Jewish people are and how they need to be killed. And after a while, even the king starts getting upset. The king gives Haman his special ring and says, "Go ahead and do whatever you want." Now that's not a good rule, boys and girls, but that's the way it was in that country. So Haman takes the ring. See the king putting the ring in his hand? Haman takes the ring and has a letter written and sent all around the country that says the Jewish people will be killed. Every one of them. All of them. And then he takes the king's ring, he has it on his finger, and he presses it down onto the letter. And you can see that it makes a mark on the letter. So when people see it, they will know that this letter is from the king. Oh my goodness. When Mordecai hears the letter read, he is so upset. He tears his beautiful clothes. He runs through the streets, wailing and crying, "Oh no! Oh, oh! This is terrible! Oh, oh!" The other Jewish people have heard the letter be read too, and they are crying and sad. They know that they are going to be killed, and they just feel so bad. They don't know what to do except to cry out. Esther looks out and sees Mordecai sitting on the ground in his torn clothes, and she sends a helper out who brings some clean, fresh clothes for Mordecai to wear. And Mordecai says, "No, I can't do this." And he gives a copy of the letter to one of the helpers and says, "Take this to the queen. Tell her what the letter says. Tell her she has to go to the king and ask him to save us. Otherwise, we will all die." The messenger brings the letter to Queen Esther and says, Mordecai says you have to go to see the king. And Esther says, I can't go to see the king just whenever I want to. If someone walks in to see the king and he has not called for them to come in, they are killed. Unless he holds out his golden stick, his scepter, and lets them touch the end of it. It's the only way they live. It's the rule. The helper hears what she says and goes back to Mordecai and tells Mordecai why Esther cannot go to the king. Mordecai writes Esther a letter and says, Esther, you are Jewish too. You have not told anyone because I told you not to. But you are. And if they kill the rest of us, they will kill you too. Me, your cousin, all of our Jewish people, we will all be killed. Maybe God has let you be queen for just this time so that you can go and talk to the king. Please go and see him. The messenger here's the messenger right here, brings the letter to Esther, and she reads it. And she says, all right, tell Mordecai this. Tell him that I and all of the ladies who work with me will pray. We won't even eat for 3 days. We will pray and ask God to protect me. Please tell Mordecai, gather all of our Jewish people together, and you all pray and don't eat either. Do what I do. Pray and ask God that the king would not kill me, but he would listen when I talk to him. And I will go and see the king. If I die, I die. But please pray that I won't. Wow, boys and girls. This story is really, really something else. This is a scary situation for Queen Esther. But you know, she is obeying Mordecai. He's been kind of like a father to her. He's told her the things to do for a while, and she's obeyed him. And now she's going to try it again. She's going to obey him, even though it's very, very dangerous for her. Remember what she told the servant? If someone goes into the king's chamber, if someone goes in front of the king and he didn't call them in there, they can be killed. Even her, even his beautiful queen. If he is not happy to see her, she will die. He has to hold out that golden stick, that golden scepter, in order for her to know that she will live. I don't think that's a very good rule to have. I'm glad God isn't that way for us. My goodness, if we have a problem and we want to talk to God about it, we can just go ahead and talk to him. We don't have to wait for him to hold out a golden stick. Oh, I just think some of their rules were not good. But it's the way it was in that country. And even though it's now very dangerous for Queen Esther, she is going to be brave. And yes, she is scared, but being brave means that you do the right thing even when you're scared. So she is going to be brave, and she's going to go see the king. Let's go back to the pictures and see what happens when she obeys Mordecai and goes to see the king. So here's the king's big gold throne, the big gold chair that he sits in. Can you see his purple robe right there? Let's see if we can see his face. Do you think it will be an angry face so that Queen Esther has to die, or will it be a smiling face? Oh, phew! It's a smiling face, boys and girls. Look, He is seeing his beautiful queen and he is happy. And what's happening with his hand? He is holding out the golden scepter, that gold stick that says she can come in and she can live. She will take her hand and she will reach up and put it right on the tip, like with her fingers. And then she knows it will be okay for her to come in and talk. And it is. And he says to her, Queen Esther, come in. What would you like me to do? What do you want? I will give you almost anything. And she says, O king, would you and Haman come to 2 parties that I'm going to plan for you? I'll have 2 of them. And if you come to the first one and then the second one, I will tell you what I want. Oh, wow. Well, so Haman and the king come to Esther's party. They come to the first one and they have a good time eating and drinking there, and then they go home and they come back the second time. And the king says, Esther, what would you like? And Haman, look at Haman smiling there. He is very proud. He is the only other person who's been invited to the party except for the king and Queen Esther. So now he thinks he is a very, very important man. So Esther looks at the king and she says, Your Majesty, please save me and save my people. We are going to be killed unless you can stop it. Please, please. And the king gets very angry and he says, Who would dare to hurt my queen? Who will kill your people? Who is this person? And she says, Your Majesty, it is Haman, right here. Haman, he's the one. He sent the letter to have all of us killed. The king is very angry. So angry that he says, Haman has to be taken away and punished. Haman has tried to hurt the queen. Oh, he is angry. So Haman is taken away, and now Mordecai is given Haman's job as the head nobleman. The king gives his ring to Mordecai, and Esther and Mordecai are very happy that now Haman is no longer there. But then she falls down in front of the king and cries, Please, Your Majesty, please, what about my people? Who is going to save my people? And he says, I cannot change a law that was already made. Oh, remember, boys and girls, another one of those bad rules. I cannot change the law, but I will let you write another letter. Mordecai, go and write another letter to say that the people can fight and fight back when someone tries to come and hurt them. So Mordecai goes to the royal writer. This is someone who writes down whatever the king wants said. And Mordecai tells him, write down that the Jewish people can fight back. If someone comes to hurt us, we can fight back. And send these letters all around the country, just like Haman's letter went all around the country. So when it's finished being written, Mordecai looks at it, he reads it all over, and then he puts the king's ring seal on it. Remember how Haman did it? He pressed it on there, and it made the mark. And here's Mordecai making the mark with the king's ring. So the letters are sent all around the country, and when the people read them, they are cheering and happy. And when Mordecai comes out, the king has put him in a royal robe and given him a small crown on his head to wear. Everyone is so happy because Mordecai has now done what was needed to be done so that the people can fight back. The people do fight when people come to hurt them, they do fight and they win. Oh, how exciting. How exciting. Mordecai now writes down, here's this little scroll here, he's writing down everything that happened in this story, boys and girls. Just how it happened for him and for Queen Esther. And they decided that they would make a rule that the Jewish people every year should celebrate the time when Queen Esther had to be very brave and go in front of the king. And she did. And how the Jewish people were allowed to fight back. And they did, and they won. And it was a day of a big feast, a big party. Everyone was cheering and happy. Here's Queen Esther right here. Here's Mordecai talking with people. Look, the men are dancing. They love to dance. They love to sing. They're having a big party, and they will give each other presents of food. And you know what, boys and girls? They still have those big feasts every year. It's called the Feast of Purim. And the people celebrate that Queen Esther was brave to obey Mordecai and stand in front of the king. Oh, what a wonderful story. We are back with our Bible words, boys and girls, our new ones for this week. We started them just a little bit last week. Let me read them for you, and if you've already started learning, feel free to read along with me. Put on the full armor of God to stand firm. Ephesians 6:13. I know that this is a 1 and this is a 3, but when they are close together like this, it means the number 13. Those of you who are younger, 2 and 3, might not have learned the number 13 yet, but it's when the 1 and the 3 are right close next to each other. Ephesians 6:13. Can you say that? 13. Yes, good job. Okay, here it is again. Put on the full armor of God to stand firm. Ephesians 6:13. And what does that mean? Well, if we put something on, we're usually picking it up and putting on our body, right? Like we put on our clothes, or we put on our boots, or our raincoat, or our winter coat. It usually means something that we're wearing. We have to pick it up and put it on our body. In this case, we're talking about armor, the full armor of God. That means not some of it, not just one piece, but all of it. The full armor of God. And armor is what soldiers wore to protect themselves when they were fighting. So we put on the full armor of God, because God is the one who gives it to us. And that lets us be able to stand firm. That means we're ready. We're not curling up in a corner and saying, oh, I can't do this, I can't do this. We're not running away saying, I'm afraid, I'm afraid. We are standing firm. We are ready to do whatever God wants us to do. And it's found in Ephesians 6:13. Remember 6? That's the last part of our big Ephesians letter, our scroll letter from Paul. It has 6 big parts, and these words come from the last part. Here's the picture of the soldier I told you I would bring. The soldier is wearing his armor. Let's look at the parts of it. He has a helmet. He has a hard covering over his chest. It's called the breastplate or chest plate. He has a shield that he can hold up and move around to If someone is swinging a sword at him, he can move his shield in any direction, protect himself. Here is his sword in his hand, if he has to fight with it. He has a belt with flaps on it that goes around his waist and covers his hips, right where your legs meet your bottom and your side, because he doesn't want to get cut there with the sword, because then he wouldn't be able to walk or run or ride his horse if he was a soldier who rode on a horse. And he has something on his feet. This man has sandals on his feet. They never fought barefoot, as far as I know. They always had something on the bottom of their feet so that they were ready to walk over rocks or over sticks or maybe hot sand, or even run through where a fire had burned and everything was still hot. Wherever they had to go, their feet were protected on the bottom so that they could go there. And this man is not curled up in a corner, is he? He is not running away. He is standing firm. He is ready. If his army needs to fight, he will be ready to fight. So, I also told you last week that God's full armor, the full armor of God, is invisible armor. We'll talk more about that next week. But let's say these words one more time together. Put on the full armor of God to stand firm. Ephesians 6:13. Good. And I think that's probably enough time on our Bible words today, because our picture lesson was a little long. So let's go sing our song now. Hi, boys and girls. Let's sing our Ephesians song again. This time we're going to sing all 3 verses with the clapping. And I hope that you remember this song, because it reminds us of all the good things that Paul told us in his Ephesians scroll letter. So let's sing it together. If I love Jesus, I'm forgiven by God. If I love Jesus, I'm chosen by God. If I love Jesus, I'm sealed with his love. I'm adopted into his family. Jesus died to take away my sin. He rose again and he wants to be my friend. He makes me wise so I can live for him. I'm adopted into his family. But remember, it's not just about me loving Jesus. It's all the other people who love Jesus who are in the church. If we're God's church, we are sinners saved by grace. If we're God's church, we are people, not a place. If we're God's church, we are loved by God. Let's show the world we are his family. Jesus died to take away our sin. He rose again and he wants to be our friend. He makes us wise so we can live for him. We're adopted into his family. Okay, I love Jesus. I'm part of the church. So how should I be behaving? Here's the 3rd verse. Since I love Jesus, I'll serve in peace each day. Since I love Jesus, I'll copy God's holy ways. Since I love Jesus, I'll be thankful and obey. I'm adopted into his family. Jesus died to take away your sin. He rose again and he wants to be your friend. He'll make you wise so you can live for him. You can be in his family. Thanks for singing along, boys and girls, and I hope that you remember this. I love you, Miss Melissa loves you, and Jesus loves you. Don't ever forget that. Bye-bye.